What if I told you that some of the most valuable crops on Earth aren't traded on Wall Street or locked behind corporate patents, but are quietly growing in backyards, hillsides, and forgotten forests all around the world? Most people don't know this, but while we're all chasing stocks, crypto, and real estate, there's an entire world of botanical wealth hiding in plain sight. Plants that sell for hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars per pound. Plants that entire civilizations built their economies around. Stick around because number 17 on this list is a plant whose dried product literally sells for more per ounce than gold. Not figuratively. Actual market price, gram for gram, beating gold. And it can grow in your backyard. And number 20, a tree so valuable that wars were fought over its wood. A single kilogram of its highest grade resin can sell for more than a new car. Make sure you hit that subscribe button because we post new videos every week that uncover the real value hiding in the natural world. The kind of knowledge that can change how you think about wealth, health, and what's going right under your feet. So let's get into it. Here are 20 plants worth more than gold that will make you a millionaire. Ranked from remarkably profitable to absolutely extraordinary. Number 1. Lavender, the purple cash crop. Most people think of lavender as a pretty plant that smells nice in a sachet. Maybe you've seen those gorgeous fields in Provence and thought it was all about aesthetics. But lavender has been one of the most quietly profitable plants in human history. The ancient Romans used it to scent their bathwater, and the word itself comes from the Latin lavare, meaning to wash. During the Great Plague of London in the 17th century, lavender was strapped to wrists and sold at enormous markups because people believed it could ward off disease. The species you want to know about is the Vandula angustifolia, sometimes called English lavender, though it actually originates from the Mediterranean. Modern science has caught up to what herbalists have said for centuries. Research published in the journal Phytomedicine found that lavender essential oil has measurable anxiolytic effects, meaning it reduces anxiety at levels comparable to some pharmaceutical interventions. The compound responsible is called linalool, and it acts on the same neurotransmitter pathways as certain prescription medications. Here's how it was used traditionally. Lavender oil was applied to burns, insect bites, and wounds. It was brewed into teas for insomnia and nervous tension. Midwives used it during childbirth for its calming properties. And farmers discovered that lavender fields attracted pollinators while repelling deer and rabbits, making it a dual-purpose crop. Why did it fall out of mainstream awareness? Because synthetic fragrances became cheaper. The perfume industry moved to lab-created scents that could be mass-produced for pennies, and real lavender was pushed to the margins. But here's the thing, a single acre of lavender can produce thousands of bundles of dried lavender per year, and high-quality essential oil sells for well over $100 per pound. Think of lavender as the blue-chip stock of the plant world. Low maintenance, high demand, and it just keeps compounding year after year. Number 2. Chamomile, the gentle fortune. If you think chamomile is just a sleepy time tea you grab from the grocery store shelf, you're missing the bigger picture entirely. Chamomile has been a cornerstone of European folk medicine for over 2,000 years. The ancient Egyptians dedicated it to their sun god Ra because of its golden, radiant flower heads. Roman soldiers bathed in chamomile infusions before battle to steady their nerves. The two species that matter here are Matricaria chamomilla, also known as German chamomile, and Chamaemelum nobile, Roman chamomile. And here's what research now proves. A clinical study published in the Journal of Clinical Psychopharmacology found that chamomile extract significantly reduced symptoms of generalized anxiety disorder over an 8-week period. The key compound is apigenin, a flavonoid that binds to benzodiazepine receptors in the brain, the exact same receptors targeted by prescription anti-anxiety drugs. Traditional use included brewing the flowers for digestive complaints, applying poultices for skin inflammation, and using chamomile steam for respiratory congestion. German farmers used to call it alles Zutraut, meaning capable of anything, because they used it for seemingly every ailment. Chamomile fell out of the spotlight because it was everywhere. It was too common, too familiar. When something grows in every grandmother's garden, the market doesn't take it seriously. But here's the reality. High-quality chamomile essential oil, especially the blue oil from German chamomile, can sell for over $500 per pound. The blue color comes from a compound called chamazulene, which only forms during the steam distillation process. Think of chamomile as the wolf in sheep's clothing of the botanical world. It looks gentle and ordinary, but underneath, there's a biochemical powerhouse generating serious money. Number 3. Calendula, the warflower. During the American Civil War, field surgeons ran out of medical supplies and turned to a bright orange flower that grew wild near battlefields. They packed wounds with its petals to stop bleeding and prevent infection. That flower was calendula, and it saved countless lives when modern medicine failed. Calendula officinalis has been used medicinally since at least the 12th century. Hildegard von Bingen, one of medieval Europe's most respected herbalists, documented its use for skin ailments and digestive issues. Modern science has caught up in a big way. Research shows calendula contains high concentrations of triterpenoids and flavonoids, compounds with demonstrated anti-inflammatory and wound-healing properties. A study published in the Journal of Wound Care found that calendula-based preparations accelerated wound closure rates compared to standard treatments. Here's how it was used. Calendula petals were infused into oils for burn treatment. They were dried and brewed for sore throats and mouth ulcers. Farmers used calendula dye as a cheaper alternative to saffron for coloring food and fabric. It was forgotten because it was literally too easy to grow. Pharmaceutical companies can't patent a flower that self-seeds in any garden. There's no money in telling people to grow their own medicine. But today, organic calendula extract sells for premium prices in the skincare industry. A single ounce of high-concentration calendula oil can retail for $40 to $60, and the global market for calendula-based products is growing every single year. Think of calendula as the battlefield medic of the plant world. Overlooked, underestimated, but the one you want by your side when it really counts. Number 4. Lemongrass, the tropical goldmine. There's a grass growing across Southeast Asia and parts of Africa that smells like fresh lemons, repels mosquitoes, and generates more income per acre than most food crops. And almost nobody in the Western world is growing it commercially. Cymbopogon citratus, or lemongrass, has been a staple of Thai, Vietnamese, and Indonesian cooking for centuries. But its value goes far beyond the kitchen. Indian Ayurvedic practitioners have used lemongrass oil for fevers, infections, and pain relief for over 1,000 years. Here's what research now confirms. Lemongrass contains a compound called citral, which makes up roughly 70 to 80% of its essential oil. Studies published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry show citral has significant antimicrobial and antifungal properties. Traditional use included brewing lemongrass tea for digestive relief, applying the oil for headaches and muscle pain, and burning the stalks to repel insects. In West Africa, lemongrass is still one of the most commonly used medicinal plants in rural clinics. Lemongrass was overlooked in Western markets because it was categorized as a tropical novelty. The agricultural establishment in temperate climates dismissed it as impractical. But here's the number that changes everything. Lemongrass essential oil sells for around $15 to $30 per pound wholesale, and a single acre can yield over 100 pounds of oil per year. If you're in a warm climate or willing to work with greenhouses, that math gets very interesting very fast. Think of lemongrass as the sleeper agent of commercial farming, unassuming, easy to grow in the right conditions, and quietly making growers rich in parts of the world most people never look at. Number 5. Moringa, the miracle tree. The World Health Organization doesn't throw the word miracle around lightly, but when it comes to moringa, even the scientific community has struggled to find a better term. Moringa oleifera, originally from the foothills of the Himalayas, has been used in Indian and African traditional medicine for over 4,000 years. Ancient texts describe it as a treatment for hundreds of conditions. Now that's traditional language, and we should be careful with claims like that. But here's what modern research has confirmed. Moringa leaves contain all 9 essential amino acids, making it a complete protein source from a plant. It has several times the vitamin C of oranges, significantly more calcium than milk, and more potassium than bananas. A review published in Phytotherapy Research documented its anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and blood sugar regulating properties, largely attributed to compounds called isothiocyanates. Here's how it was traditionally used. Moringa leaves were dried and ground into powder for malnutrition. The seeds were crushed and used to purify drinking water, something that's been verified by modern water treatment research. The oil pressed from the seeds, known as ben oil, was used for cooking, skincare, and as a lubricant for fine machinery. Moringa was forgotten in the West because it doesn't grow well in cold climates, and because the supplement industry preferred single compound extracts they could patent. But the global moringa market is now valued in the billions, and dried moringa powder sells for $20 to $40 per pound in health food stores. In tropical climates, moringa trees grow fast, some reaching 12 feet in their first year, and they can be harvested multiple times annually. Think of moringa as the Swiss Army knife of the plant world. No matter what you need, it probably has a blade for it. Number 6. Goji berry, the red diamond. For over 2,000 years, a small red berry has been one of the most prized ingredients in Chinese medicine. Emperors consumed it daily. Monks in Himalayan monasteries credited it with their longevity. And when Western markets finally discovered it in the early 2000s, the price exploded. Lycium barbarum, the goji berry, grows on a woody shrub native to China and the Himalayas. Traditional Chinese medicine classified it as a superior tonic, meaning something so safe and beneficial it could be taken daily for a lifetime. Recent clinical studies show that goji berries contain exceptionally high levels of zeaxanthin, a carotenoid that supports eye health. A study in the journal Optometry and Vision Science found that regular goji consumption increased plasma zeaxanthin levels and helped protect against age-related macular degeneration. Here's how it was used traditionally. Goji berries were brewed into teas, added to soups, and combined with other tonic herbs for kidney and liver support. Tibetan healers used them for altitude sickness and fatigue. Chinese grandmothers added them to congee for children recovering from illness. Goji berries were dismissed in the West for decades because they looked like any other dried fruit and came wrapped in claims that sounded too good to be true. The superfood backlash didn't help either, but the numbers speak for themselves. Dried organic goji berries sell for $15 to $25 per pound retail, and premium freeze-dried varieties command even more. A well-maintained goji plot can produce thousands of pounds per acre once established. Think of goji berries as the compounding interest of agriculture. The bushes are perennial, they produce for decades, and each year the harvest gets a little bigger. Number 7. Bamboo, the green steel. Here's a plant that can grow up to 3 feet in a single day, is stronger than steel per unit weight, and has a global market worth tens of billions of dollars. Yet most Western farmers have never seriously considered growing it. Bamboo isn't a tree, it's a grass. Specifically, it belongs to the subfamily Bambusoideae, with over 1,400 species worldwide. In Asia, bamboo has been a building material, food source, and cultural symbol for thousands of years. Japanese samurai used bamboo for bows and training swords. Chinese engineers built bridges from it that lasted centuries. Modern science has caught up to bamboo's engineering potential. Studies in the Journal of Materials Science show that certain bamboo species have a tensile strength comparable to mild steel. Bamboo also sequesters carbon at a rate significantly higher than most hardwood trees, making it an environmental powerhouse. The compound bamboo silica found in the nodes is now being researched for its potential benefits to bone and connective tissue health. Traditionally, bamboo shoots were harvested as food, the leaves brewed into tea, and the stalks used for everything from scaffolding to paper to musical instruments. Bamboo charcoal has been used for water filtration and air purification in Japan for centuries. Bamboo was overlooked in Western agriculture because it was seen as invasive and hard to control, and some species are. But properly managed timber bamboo plantations are now among the most profitable crops in subtropical climates. Raw bamboo poles sell for moderate prices, but processed bamboo products, flooring, textiles, activated charcoal, and engineered lumber command premium rates. Think of bamboo as the factory of the plant world. You plant it once and it just keeps manufacturing wealth, day after day, faster than anything else on earth. Number 8. Rosemary, the memory merchant. Shakespeare wrote Rosemary, that's for remembrance in Hamlet, and it turns out the bard may have been more scientifically accurate than anyone realized for 400 years. Salvia rosmarinus, recently reclassified from Rosmarinus officinalis, has been revered since ancient Greece. Students wore rosemary garlands during exams. It was burned at funerals to help the living remember the dead. During the Middle Ages, it was one of the primary ingredients in Hungary water, considered Europe's first perfume and a remedy for everything from gout to memory loss. Here's what research now proves. A study conducted at Northumbria University found that simply being in a room diffused with rosemary essential oil improved memory performance by 5 to 7%. The compound responsible is 1,8-cenyl, which appears in the bloodstream after inhalation and crosses the blood-brain barrier. Rosemary extract also contains carnosic acid, a potent antioxidant that studies show protects brain cells from free radical damage. Traditional use included steeping rosemary in wine for circulation, burning it as a fumigant during plague outbreaks, and infusing it into oil for joint pain and hair growth. Mediterranean cultures used rosemary in nearly every meal, not just for flavor, but because they observed that communities consuming it regularly seemed to stay sharper in old age. Rosemary lost its medicinal reputation because the culinary world claimed it entirely. Once something becomes just a cooking herb, people stop taking its therapeutic properties seriously. But rosemary essential oil sells for $30 to $60 per pound, and the plant itself is incredibly drought-tolerant and low maintenance. Think of rosemary as the compound interest of cognition. A little bit every day, and over time, the returns on your mental clarity are remarkable. Number 9. Turmeric, the golden underground. There's a reason they call it the golden spice, and it has nothing to do with the color. Well, almost nothing. Curcuma longa has been the backbone of Ayurvedic medicine for over 4,000 years. In India, it's used in ceremonies, cooking, cosmetics, and medicine. It's so culturally embedded that brides and grooms are coated in turmeric paste before weddings. But in the Western world, turmeric was dismissed as just another curry ingredient for decades. Modern science has changed that conversation completely. The key compound is curcumin, which makes up about 3 to 5% of turmeric by weight. A review of over 120 clinical trials, published in the journal Foods, found that curcumin demonstrates significant anti-inflammatory activity comparable to some pharmaceutical drugs, without the gastrointestinal side effects. It also shows promise in studies on joint health, cognitive function, and cardiovascular protection. The challenge is bioavailability. Curcumin isn't well absorbed on its own, but pairing it with piperine from black pepper increases absorption dramatically. Here's how it was used traditionally. Turmeric paste was applied to wounds as an antiseptic. It was mixed into warm milk for coughs and colds, a preparation now trendy in the West as golden milk. Farmers used it as a natural dye and preservative. Turmeric lost ground in the West because the spice industry commoditized it into cheap powder sold for a few dollars a jar. Nobody takes a $3 spice seriously as medicine. But organic, high curcumin turmeric sells for significantly more, and the global turmeric supplement market alone is worth billions. Think of turmeric as buried treasure, literally underground, literally golden, and worth far more than most people will ever realize. Number 10. Elderberry, the immune fortress. When the elderberry supplement market exploded during recent cold and flu seasons, the shelves emptied practically overnight. But what most people don't know is that this berry has been a frontline immune defense for over 2,000 years. Sambucus nigra, the European elderberry, was called the medicine chest of the people by Hippocrates himself. In European folk tradition, it was considered bad luck to cut down an elder tree without asking permission from the elder mother, a spirit believed to live inside. Danish and German peasants planted elder trees near their homes as a form of natural pharmacy. Recent clinical studies show that elderberry extract can reduce both the duration and severity of cold and flu symptoms. A meta-analysis published in Complementary Therapies in Medicine found that elderberry supplementation substantially reduced upper respiratory symptoms. The active compounds include anthocyanins and flavonoids, which appear to help prevent viruses from entering and replicating in human cells. Here's how it was used. Elderberry syrup was a staple winter remedy across Northern Europe. The flowers were brewed into cordials and infused into vinegar. The berries were made into wine, and the wood was used for musical instruments, combs, and pegs. Elderberry was forgotten because pharmaceutical antivirals and cold medications dominated the market. Why forage for berries when you can buy a pill? But the numbers tell a different story now. The elderberry supplement market has grown exponentially in recent years, and high-quality elderberry syrup sells for premium prices. A well-established elderberry operation on just a few acres can generate 6 figures in annual revenue. Think of elderberry as the immune system's savings account. Deposit a little every day, and when the crisis comes, you're covered while everyone else is scrambling. Now, if you're finding this valuable and you're starting to realize just how much botanical wealth has been hiding in plain sight, do me a huge favor. Hit that like button right now. It helps this video reach other people who are searching for real knowledge about the plants that can change their lives and their bank accounts. And if you haven't subscribed to The Garden Path yet, click that subscribe button and ring the bell. We're building a community of people who understand that the most powerful assets on Earth aren't man-made. They grow from the ground. And I'd love to have you as part of it. Alright, let's keep going because we're just getting to the really amazing ones. Number 11. Peppermint, the cool million. Most people don't realize that the global peppermint industry is worth well over $4 billion a year, for a plant most people associate with candy canes and toothpaste. Mentha ex piperita is actually a hybrid, a natural cross between watermint and spearmint. It doesn't exist in the wild without human cultivation, which means every peppermint plant on Earth exists because someone planted one. The ancient Egyptians, Greeks, and Romans all used mint medicinally, and dried mint leaves have been found in Egyptian pyramids dating back to around 1000 BC. Modern science has confirmed what these civilizations intuited. Peppermint oil contains high concentrations of menthol, and clinical trials published in the British Medical Journal found that peppermint oil capsules significantly reduce symptoms of irritable bowel syndrome compared to placebo. The menthol activates cold-sensitive receptors in the gut, which relaxes smooth muscle and reduces spasms. Traditional use included brewing peppermint tea for nausea, applying the oil for headaches, and chewing the leaves for fresh breath and alertness. European herbalists prescribed it for digestive complaints going back to the 17th century. Peppermint lost its identity as a medicine when the food and cosmetics industries absorbed it completely. It became a flavor, not a treatment. But an acre of well-managed peppermint can produce 50 to 100 pounds of essential oil, and pure peppermint oil sells for $35 to $70 per pound wholesale, with organic varieties commanding even more. Think of peppermint as the cool, quiet earner. It doesn't make headlines. It doesn't need hype. It just generates wealth year after year with that crisp efficiency. Number 12. Ashwagandha, the stress assassin. In a world where stress is practically a currency, there's a root that's been silently combating it for 3,000 years, and the modern supplement industry has finally caught on. Withenia somnifera, known as ashwagandha or Indian ginseng, is one of the most important herbs in Ayurvedic medicine. Its name translates roughly to smell of the horse, which refers not to its aroma, but to the traditional belief that consuming it gives you the strength and vitality of a stallion. Indian warriors took ashwagandha preparations before battle. Scholars consumed it to sharpen their minds. Here's what research now confirms. Ashwagandha is classified as an adaptogen, meaning it helps the body adapt to stress. A randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled study published in the Indian Journal of Psychological Medicine found that ashwagandha root extract significantly reduced cortisol levels, the body's primary stress hormone, over a 60-day period. Participants also reported substantial improvements in overall well-being. The key active compounds are called withanolides, a group of steroidal lactones unique to this plant. Traditional uses included mixing ashwagandha powder into warm milk before bed for sleep support, combining it with ghee for physical recovery, and using it as a general tonic for aging. Ashwagandha was virtually unknown outside of India until the early 2000s because the Western supplement market wasn't interested in herbs it couldn't understand through a single compound lens. It took years for adaptogenic science to gain credibility, but the ashwagandha market has surged, and high-quality organic root powder sells for $15 to $40 per pound, while standardized extracts go for much more. Think of ashwagandha as the body's personal financial advisor for stress. It doesn't eliminate the volatility, it just helps you manage it so it doesn't wreck your portfolio. Number 13. Wasabi, the green gold. Here's a number that's going to surprise you. 95% of the wasabi served in restaurants around the world isn't wasabi at all. It's dyed horseradish. Real wasabi is one of the most difficult and valuable crops on the planet. Eutrema japonicum, still commonly known by its older classification, Wasabia japonica, grows naturally along cold mountain stream beds in Japan. It requires very specific conditions: constant cool running water, shade, and patience. A single wasabi plant takes 18 months to 2 years to reach maturity. You can't rush it, you can't shortcut it, and that's exactly why it's so valuable. Modern analysis shows that real wasabi contains a compound called allyl isothiocyanate, along with several unique isothiocyanates not found in horseradish. Research published in toxicology and food chemistry journals has identified antimicrobial properties that may explain why wasabi has been served alongside raw fish in Japan for centuries. It wasn't just about flavor, it was food safety. Traditional use goes back at least 1,000 years in Japanese cuisine and medicine. Wasabi was grated fresh at the table for sashimi, used as a preservative for rice, and applied in poultices for joint pain. The leaves and stems are also edible and command high prices in specialty markets. Wasabi remained rare outside Japan because everyone assumed it was impossible to grow elsewhere. But farmers in parts of the Pacific Northwest, the United Kingdom, and even New Zealand have begun cultivating it successfully. Fresh wasabi rhizomes sell for around $70 to $100 per pound, and demand vastly outstrips supply. Think of wasabi as the plant equivalent of a rare gemstone. Slow to form, impossible to fake, and worth a fortune to anyone who has the patience to cultivate the real thing. Number 14. Golden seal. The Appalachian gold. Deep in the forests of the American Appalachian Mountains, there's a plant so valuable that poachers dig it up illegally, and some landowners guard their patches with the same intensity they'd guard a safe full of cash. Hydrastis canadensis, known as golden seal, was one of the most important medicinal plants used by Native American nations, particularly the Cherokee and Iroquois. They used it for skin infections, digestive issues, and eye ailments. When European settlers learned about golden seal, demand exploded, and wild populations were devastated by overharvesting. By the early 20th century, golden seal was already considered at risk. Here's what research has confirmed. Golden seal's primary active compound is berberine, a powerful alkaloid that has been the subject of hundreds of clinical studies. Research published in Metabolism, Clinical and Experimental, found that berberine can significantly reduce blood sugar levels in individuals with type 2 diabetes, with efficacy in some studies comparable to the prescription drug metformin. Berberine also demonstrates broad-spectrum antimicrobial activity. Traditional use included making golden seal teas for mouth sores, applying root preparations to wounds, and using it as a digestive bitter. Appalachian herbalists considered it one of their most versatile and reliable remedies. Golden seal declined because wild populations were decimated and cultivation is slow and difficult. The plant prefers shaded forest conditions, takes 3 to 5 years to reach harvestable size, and can't be industrially farmed easily. But that difficulty is exactly what keeps the price high. Dried golden seal root sells for $50 to $100 per pound, and wild harvested roots command even more. Forest farmers who establish golden seal patches are sitting on a long-term gold mine. Think of golden seal as the rare earth mineral of the plant kingdom. Hard to find, hard to extract, and absolutely essential to those who know what it does. Number 15. Vanilla, the seductive fortune. There's a reason vanilla is the second most expensive spice in the world. Growing it is an exercise in patience, precision, and a level of hand pollination that would make most farmers quit on day one. Vanilla planifolia is an orchid, and like most orchids, it's extraordinarily demanding. The vanilla vine takes 3 to 5 years to produce its first flowers, and each flower blooms for only a single day. In its native Mexico, the Melipona bee pollinated it naturally, but when vanilla was transplanted to Madagascar, Indonesia, and other tropical regions, there were no Melipona bees. So every single vanilla flower on most of the world's commercial farms has to be pollinated by hand, using a thin stick or needle within hours of opening. Modern analysis confirms that vanilla beans contain over 250 individual flavor and aroma compounds, with vanillin being the most prominent. Research in food chemistry has documented vanilla's antioxidant properties, and certain compounds show anti-inflammatory activity in laboratory settings. Here's how it was used. The Totonac people of Mexico were the first known cultivators, and they considered vanilla sacred. The Aztecs added it to their chocolate drinks reserved for royalty. European colonizers brought it back to the courts of France, where it became synonymous with luxury. Vanilla's profitability is counterbalanced by its difficulty, which is why most of the market shifted to synthetic vanillin derived from wood pulp or petrochemicals. But real vanilla, the hand-pollinated, sun-cured, months-aged product, sells for $200 to $600 per pound, depending on the year and origin. When cyclones or political instability disrupted Madagascar's supply, prices spiked even higher. Think of vanilla as the hedge fund of the plant world. High barrier to entry, massive effort, but for those who commit, the returns can be extraordinary. Number 16. Ginseng, the root of wealth. There are very few plants where finding a single wild root can put several $100s in your pocket. Ginseng is one of them. And in the mountains of Appalachia, Korea, and northern China, people have been getting rich from this root for centuries. Panax ginseng is the Asian species, revered in Chinese medicine for over 5,000 years. Panax quinquefolius, American ginseng, became a major export to China starting in the 1700s. In fact, ginseng was one of colonial America's most valuable exports. Daniel Boone himself was a ginseng trader. Fur trappers and frontiersmen funded their expeditions by digging wild ginseng roots. Modern science has caught up. Ginseng contains a class of compounds called ginsenosides, and clinical trials published in the Journal of Ginseng Research have documented effects on cognitive function, immune response, and physical endurance. A systematic review found that ginseng supplementation can improve mental performance and reduce fatigue. Traditional use included brewing ginseng tea for vitality, slicing the root into soups and stews for recovery, and carrying dried ginseng as a general health tonic. In Korean culture, ginseng is so valued that premium aged roots are given as luxury gifts. Ginseng never truly fell out of favor. It's always been prized, but its cultivation is extremely challenging. Wild ginseng takes 7 to 10 years to mature and requires specific forest conditions. Cultivated ginseng is faster but still takes 4 to 6 years and is susceptible to disease. Despite the difficulty, wild American ginseng root sells for $500 to over $1,000 per pound, and cultivated roots still bring substantial prices. Some individual wild roots with ideal shape and age have sold for thousands. Think of ginseng as planting a retirement fund in the forest floor. You won't see returns for years, but when you do, they're remarkable. Number 17, saffron, the thread of kings. I told you to stick around for this one, and here's why. Saffron is, gram for gram, more expensive than gold. Not in some historical sense, not as a fun comparison. Right now, today, premium saffron sells for up to $7,500 per pound. That is more per ounce than the current market price of gold. Crocus sativus is a small, purple flower that blooms for about 1 week per year, usually in October or November. Each flower produces exactly 3 tiny red stigmas, and those stigmas are saffron. Here's the math that will make your jaw drop. It takes roughly 75,000 flowers to produce a single pound of saffron. Every single one of those stigmas must be picked by hand. There is no machine that can do this. It is one of the most labor-intensive harvests in all of agriculture. Modern analysis shows that saffron contains 3 critical bioactive compounds. Crocin gives it its deep red-gold color and acts as a powerful antioxidant. Picrocrocin gives it its distinctive bitter flavor, and saffronol provides its unmistakable aroma. Clinical trials published in the Journal of Integrative Medicine found that saffron supplementation showed meaningful benefits for mood, comparable in some studies to standard treatments for mild to moderate depression. Here's how it was used. Cleopatra reportedly bathed in saffron-infused water before receiving guests. Alexander the Great used it to treat battlefield wounds. Persian kings dyed their robes with it. Medieval European traders valued it so highly that adulterating saffron was punishable by imprisonment or death. Saffron never really fell out of favor. It's been expensive for 3,000 years. But what most people don't realize is that you don't need to live in Iran or Spain to grow it. Crocus sativus is surprisingly adaptable. It can grow in USDA zones 6 through 9. Small-scale saffron farms are popping up across the United States, Europe, and Australia. And because the harvest happens in autumn and the plants are dormant the rest of the year, saffron can be grown alongside other crops. Think of saffron as the tiny thread that holds the entire tapestry of botanical wealth together. Small, delicate, and easy to overlook, but worth more than almost anything else in the garden. Number 18. Sandalwood, the sacred fortune. Close your eyes and imagine a warm, creamy, woodsy fragrance that seems to calm your mind the instant you breathe it in. That's sandalwood, and the trees that produce it are among the most valuable living organisms on the planet. Santalum album, Indian sandalwood, takes a minimum of 15 years to develop the aromatic heartwood that makes it so prized. Some of the best specimens are 30 to 50 years old. In Hindu tradition, sandalwood paste has been used in religious ceremonies for thousands of years. Buddhist monks burned sandalwood incense during meditation. Egyptian embalmers used it in the preservation of the dead. Modern science has isolated the compound responsible for much of sandalwood's allure. It's called alpha-santalol, and research published in Planta Medica shows it has anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial properties. Studies are also exploring its potential in skin cancer prevention, with early results showing santalol may inhibit certain cell proliferation pathways. Traditional use included grinding sandalwood into paste for skin cooling and religious marks, burning the wood as incense, and using sandalwood oil for anxiety and sleep support. In Ayurvedic medicine, it was considered cooling, calming, and purifying. Sandalwood became scarce because over-harvesting devastated wild populations in India. The Indian government had to impose strict regulations on sandalwood trade, and illegal logging became a serious criminal enterprise. But here's the opportunity. Plantation-grown sandalwood is now a legitimate and highly lucrative crop in Australia, parts of the Pacific, and even Hawaii. A mature sandalwood tree can be worth $10,000 to $20,000. The heartwood sells for hundreds of dollars per kilogram, and the essential oil goes for thousands per liter. Think of sandalwood as the ultimate long game. You plant it for your children or your grandchildren. But when it matures, a single grove can fund a legacy. Number 19. Frankincense, the ancient currency. Before there were banks, before there were stock exchanges, before gold coins were standardized, there was frankincense. It was the currency of the ancient world, and its value hasn't diminished one bit. Boswellia sacra, the tree that produces frankincense resin, grows in the harsh, arid landscapes of Oman, Yemen, Somalia, and parts of Ethiopia. The resin is collected by making small cuts in the bark and allowing the milky sap to harden into golden tears. This process, called tapping, has been practiced the same way for over 5,000 years. Here's what modern research reveals. Frankincense contains boswellic acids, compounds that studies show have potent anti-inflammatory effects. Research published in the British Medical Journal found that Boswellia extracts significantly improved symptoms in patients with osteoarthritis. Other studies are exploring boswellic acids for their potential effects on brain inflammation and neurological health, with promising early findings. Traditional use was vast. The ancient Egyptians burned frankincense in temples every morning at sunrise. The Romans imported tons of it annually. It was one of the 3 gifts brought to the infant Jesus, alongside gold and myrrh, and the fact that it was listed alongside gold tells you exactly how valuable it was. Arabian traders built entire civilizations mined on the frankincense trade route. Frankincense lost its cultural centrality when organized religion became less dominant in daily life and when synthetic fragrances replaced natural resins. But the market for genuine frankincense is booming again. High-grade Boswellia sacra resin sells for substantial prices per kilogram, and the essential oil commands premium rates. The supplement market for Boswellia extract, driven by joint health research, is growing rapidly every year. Think of frankincense as the original Bitcoin, a decentralized store of value that humans have trusted for millennia, long before anyone invented paper money. And here we are at number 20, the one I saved for last because it represents everything we've talked about today. Number 20. Agarwood, the wood of the gods. There is a substance on this planet that, at its highest grade, sells for up to $100,000 per kilogram. That's more expensive than gold, platinum, and diamonds by weight. It is the single most expensive natural raw material in the world, and it comes from a tree that most people in the Western world have never even heard of. Aquilaria malacensis, and several related species in the genus Aquilaria, are tropical trees native to Southeast Asia. Under normal circumstances, the wood of these trees is pale, soft, and virtually worthless. But when an Aquilaria tree becomes infected by a specific type of mold, something extraordinary happens. The tree's immune response produces a dark, dense, incredibly fragrant resin that saturates the heartwood. That infected, resin-soaked wood is called agarwood, or oud in Arabic, and it has been one of the most coveted substances in human civilization for thousands of years. In ancient Sanskrit texts, agarwood was called the wood of the gods. Chinese emperors burned it during court ceremonies. Japanese kodo, the art of incense appreciation, considers agarwood the supreme ingredient. In the Middle East, oud oil is a cornerstone of perfumery, and a small bottle of genuine oud can sell for more than fine jewelry. Modern chemical analysis has identified over 150 compounds in agarwood resin, including sesquiterpenes and chromones that contribute to its complex, haunting aroma. Research published in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology has documented traditional uses as a sedative, digestive aid, and anti-inflammatory. The compound agarospirol shows particularly interesting activity in preliminary neurological studies. Here's the reality of agarwood's value. Not every Aquilaria tree produces it. In the wild, only a fraction of trees become naturally infected. This scarcity is what drove the price to astronomical levels and also drove wild populations to the brink of extinction. Aquilaria species are now protected under international trade agreements. But here's where it gets interesting for anyone watching this video. Agarwood plantations are now being established across Southeast Asia, and growers have developed artificial inoculation methods to induce resin formation. A single mature inoculated Aquilaria tree can produce agarwood worth thousands to tens of thousands of dollars. Plantation operators are essentially growing the world's most expensive substance on managed farms. This is what this entire video has been about. The most incredible wealth in the natural world isn't always obvious. It isn't always shiny or flashy. Sometimes it's hidden inside a sick tree growing slowly in the dark, invisible until someone who knows what they're looking for comes along. Agarwood is the ultimate proof that nature's greatest treasures reward patience, knowledge, and the willingness to look where no one else is looking. If you made it to the end, you now know something most people never will. The most valuable substances on Earth aren't just mined or manufactured, they grow. Hit that like button, drop a comment telling me which plant you're most excited about, and subscribe if you haven't already. Remember, sometimes the most valuable thing in the world isn't in a vault. It's in a garden, waiting for you to recognize what it's worth.